When my brother got arrested, my parents emptied their entire savings to bail him out. But when I needed money for a surgery, my dad looked me in the eye and said, "If one of you has to go, better it be you than him." My mom didn't even blink. "He's always been our priority. You're on your own." I just nodded and said, "Thanks for showing me where I stand." 4 months later, I made a move that left them with nothing to lean on. Now they call, every day, begging for a talk. So this one conversation started last month with something small, but it's stuck in my head ever since. I showed up at their house as usual because something broke, this time the Wi-Fi. It's always me fixing things, never my brother Nelson. I'll get to him. It was around 7 p.m., and the vibe was off as soon as I stepped in. Not just a Wi-Fi's down situation. There was this strange tension. My mom was whispering on the phone, and my dad was pacing. No one even said hi. It was that feeling you get when you walk into something mid-scene, and they're not even trying to hide it. I asked, "Is it the Wi-Fi again?" And my dad just muttered, "Yeah, it's in the basement," before going back to pacing. Mom stayed glued to her call, avoiding eye contact. I headed downstairs and started unplugging the router, but I could hear them through the vent, like they forgot I existed. My mom was saying things like, "What if Nelson doesn't get bail? We have to do something." My dad was already talking about draining their accounts, not, "Let's figure this out together," but full on, "We'll cash it all if we have." 2. And I'm just down there holding this router, thinking of course it's Nelson. He's 3 years younger, always been the screw-up, and always got away with it. Every mess was someone else's fault, and my parents cleaned it up. Hearing them ready to throw everything away for him still hit me. I fixed the Wi-Fi, obviously, and started heading upstairs when my dad stopped me on the steps. "No thank you, just, can you help us move money out of our old account?" No explanation needed. I knew exactly what was going on. I asked, "You? Sure about that?" He gave me that look like I was the dumb one. Then my mom walked in, ended her call, and said, "Can you give us a minute?" I left, walked out to the backyard, scrolled Reddit, trying to ignore the fact that the yard still looked exactly like it did when I was a kid. They argued inside for a while. Eventually, my dad came out and said, "You can go." So I left. That alone wouldn't have been enough to break anything. I've known my place in the family for years. But then a week later, I found out I needed surgery. Nothing major, but serious enough to mean time off work. I'd put it off too long. Bills, insurance stress, you name it. But now it couldn't wait. So I called my dad. Just asked for a loan, not a gift. He paused, then said, "If one of you has to go, it's better you than him." That was it. No hesitation, no apology. In the background, my mom chimed in like it was rehearsed. "Nelson's always been our priority. You're on your own." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "Thanks for showing me where I stand." And he hung up. I stared at my phone for a bit, then shut it off. Didn't even bother calling Nelson. What was the point? He's probably somewhere pretending this isn't all his fault. And honestly, the worst part is that none of this surprised me. I've always been the backup plan, the one who fixes stuff, the one who asks for the least and gives the most, the one who gets a gift card for Christmas while Nelson gets a new phone. I sat with that feeling, just let it sit in my chest. I texted Evelyn to vent, and she tried to be sympathetic, saying maybe my parents were just stressed. Maybe Nelson's situation was really serious. But you don't just discard one kid because the other one keeps crashing. I didn't even tell her the exact words my dad said. I didn't want her thinking I was just fishing for pity. That night, I couldn't sleep. Just lay there thinking about all the times I'd helped them. All the times I'd loaned them money when Nelson had burned through theirs. All the times I'd shown up without question because family takes care of family. Except that always meant me taking care of them. I thought maybe one day they'd see me. Turns out they always saw me, for exactly what I was. Spare parts. The next morning, my mom texted me asking if I could pick up groceries. Like nothing happened. No mention of what they said. No apology. Just a list. I didn't reply. I stared at my screen thinking, "Are you for real?" I wandered through the day in this weird daze, wondering if I was overreacting. But then I'd remember how flatly he said it. Like I didn't even matter. If one of you has to go. Like I was nothing more than a number in their equation. Later that day, Nelson called me, for the first time in months. He sounded groggy, probably just woke, up and asked if I'd talked to Mom and Dad. I said yeah. He sighed and asked if I could help out with some stuff. I just laughed and hung up. He texted right after, "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I blocked his number. What else was there to say? He's always assumed I'd clean up after him, keep the peace, handle the hard stuff. This time, he's on his own. The days that followed, I ignored every call from my parents, every voicemail. They weren't calling to apologize or check on me. They were calling for favors. Can you fix this? Can you send that? Nothing about how I was doing. No acknowledgement of what they said. That's when it hit me. If I'm just their utility, maybe it's time to stop being available. I stopped replying, stopped showing up. Didn't fix their Wi-Fi, didn't run their errands, didn't transfer money. Nelson tried again. Left some long, rambling voicemail accusing me of acting childish and making things harder than they need to be. I deleted it. Didn't feel guilty, just tired. You grow up thinking family is family, like it's some unbreakable truth. Then you get older and realize some people just pick favorites and never look back. I don't know if this is normal or just my experience, but I'm done pretending. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just needed to say it. Now I keep asking myself, what happens next? If I walk away, if I really cut ties, does anything change? Or do I just finally start living for myself instead of hoping for crumbs? I'm not sad. I'm angry. And it's not new. It's old. It's always been there. I just see it clearly now. I don't know what's coming next, but I know this. I'm not their fixer anymore. Not their fallback. Not their second choice. Next time they need help, they can call Nelson. I won't be picking up. My parents didn't even try to start with a hi or ask how I was healing from surgery. It was straight to, "Can you come now? It's important. Nelson's busy." I just said, "Nah, I'm not around today." My dad got quiet, then stiffly said, "Guess I'll figure it out," and hung up. After that, my mom jumped in. Texts. At first acting normal, and then suddenly flipping into full-blown guilt trip paragraphs about how hard things have been with Nelson's situation, how family sticks together. I left her on red. It's wild how fast the tone changed, from annoyed to desperate. Now they call a few times a day, leaving voicemails about bills, insurance stuff, random login issues, things I've handled for them for years because Nelson never bothered to learn, and they just assumed I'd always be there to clean up. And you don't realize just how much you do for people until you stop doing it. My mom blew up my phone about Netflix not working. Then it was why the grocery app was logged out. Then it was her tablet won't connect to Wi-Fi. I didn't respond, not because I wanted to be mean, but because I finally realized, if I'm not even worth basic respect, then they can figure it out themselves. Nelson, of course, is nowhere. He's always had this magical ability to vanish when things don't revolve around him. He's been that way since we were kids. 2 weeks after the last fallout, I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was Nelson, using someone else's phone. He went right into it. "You're making this harder than it has to be. Mom and Dad are stressed. Just help them already." He tried to sound chill, but I could hear the irritation in his voice, like I was wasting his time. I told him, "You're the favorite. You help." He actually laughed and said, "I don't have time for this crap," and started blaming me, saying it's my responsibility since I know how everything works. I hung up. The next day, my dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. He's never done that in his life. He knocked like he was about to break the door down. I cracked it just enough to see his face. He looked like he was ready to give a lecture. He started with, "You're being childish. Get over yourself and help your family." I replied, "You told me I wasn't the priority. Go figure it out." With Nelson, he tried to push the door open. I blocked it. He slapped the door frame and stormed off, mumbling to himself. My neighbor across the hall popped her head out. I just shrugged and shut the door. It was oddly freeing. I watched as their missed calls piled up. The tone of the texts went from entitled to practically begging. You'd think they'd stop after a few days, but no, they kept going. My mom started with emotional pleas about how Nelson is struggling, how family forgives. My dad switched to threats, saying I'd regret this, calling me a bad son. I blocked his number for a week, and then I started thinking about everything they've got tied to my name, stuff they set up years ago because my credit was better. Utilities, phone plans, old joint accounts. They never changed it. Just expected I'd always handle it. So, I logged into every account I could and started pulling my name. It was tedious, lots of customer service calls and elevator music, but I did it. Figured if they want to be independent, they can be. I removed my cards from all their payment systems, didn't say a word. I knew they'd find out eventually. I'd already paid the cost of being their fallback for too long. Let's see how they manage without their safety net. A week later, my mom called freaking out about the water bill, said the account got switched, and now she can't log in. I told her, "Call customer service, they'll help you." She yelled, said I was ruining things for everyone. I said, "I'm just doing what you told me." She hung up. An hour later, Nelson called. "You're being a jerk, just fix it." I replied, "No, you fix it. I'm done." He cursed at me and hung up. Things just escalated from there. My parents started calling Evelyn, asking her to talk to me. She texted me like, "Your mom's worried. What's going on?" I told her, "They know what they did." She said, "Aren't you being a little harsh?" I said, "You weren't there. You didn't hear it." She dropped it after that. Then I started getting letters about joint accounts being closed. I ignored them. My mom called again, this time crying, saying they couldn't pay some bills. I told her, "Ask Nelson." She just cried and hung up. I didn't feel anything. Not guilty, not vindicated, just done. Then came the big meltdown in the family group chat. My dad started writing long rants about loyalty, how hard he worked, how Nelson needs them and I'm being selfish. Nelson chimed in saying I was always jealous and tried to ruin things for him. I left the group. Later that day, my aunt texted me asking if everything was okay. I didn't reply. The final straw? My mom came to my apartment. She stood in the hallway yelling, said, "You don't understand. Nelson needs us. He always needed more." I said, "I needed you once, and you said no." She tried to push past me. I blocked the door. She slapped my arm and stormed off. My neighbor saw, again, and just shook her head. I know it sounds messy, but honestly, it's just real. I was always the fallback, the one who didn't complain, didn't ask for much, just handled things. Nelson was the fragile one, so I had to be the one who sacrificed. My parents didn't do it out of hate, just habit, laziness, or both. They're not monsters, just selfish. And now, every day, more calls, more texts, more unpaid bills. I haven't blocked them completely, but every time I see their names, I hear that phone call again. If one of you has to go, it's better you than him. So yeah, I'm done being their safety net. They can figure it out. Or maybe Nelson can finally step up. Not that I'm expecting it. Honestly, I'm just sitting back now, watching how far this all goes. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed I'd stand up to them. But now, after everything, I just don't care anymore. I'm not their backup. I'm not their fix-it guy. And I'm definitely not their second choice. I hadn't been over in weeks, but suddenly everything was piling up. My mom texted me a photo of the kitchen sink with the caption, "Can you help with this?" I didn't reply. She called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she started sending me screenshots of unpaid bills like I was supposed to jump in and fix it all. That's the part I hadn't really considered. They were just so used to forwarding things to me or using my card on file. Now they were getting late notices and couldn't figure out how to set up autopay. My dad called me from his old phone and said, "You've made your point. Now fix this mess." I said, "Nah, I'm good." Then the group chat imploded again. Nelson accused me of being dramatic and said I was making Mom cry. My dad piled on, saying I was supposed to be the responsible one. I told them, I learned from the best. Nelson started calling me names, so I muted the chat. A few days later, my mom showed up at my door with no warning. She banged on it nonstop for 5 minutes. When I finally opened it, she shoved past. Me crying, going on about how Nelson was struggling and she didn't know what to do. She tried to hug me. I stepped back and told her to leave. She slapped my arm and called me heartless. I said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." She slammed the door on her way out. A week later, I got a letter from the water company saying the account was past due. I guess they still hadn't figured out how to manage it. That same week, my dad texted me, "You're going to regret this. You'll need us one day." I ignored it. He called 3 times that night. I let them all ring. The next day, Nelson texted, "You're ruining everything. Just suck it up and help, like always." I blocked him again. And then things got weirder. Nelson's friends started texting me, people I barely knew. One said, "Bro, what's going on with your parents?" That's when it clicked. My parents were reaching out to anyone they could to pressure me. One guy, Kyle, said, "Your mom said you're the only one who can fix this." I told him, "She's wrong. It's not like I wanted any of this to get messy. I just stopped fixing things and suddenly their whole life unraveled. I even went to their place when I knew they'd be out and cleared out all my stuff. Old laptops, some clothes, junk in the garage. Left a note. Don't call me for anything else." Then Evelyn messaged me again. "Your mom won't stop calling me." I told her, "You can block her if you want." She asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah. Actually, I am." At this point, it was just getting ridiculous. My parents started hitting me up on WhatsApp, Signal, even LinkedIn. My dad sent me a contact request there, like I was going to reply to a DM on a business platform. I just laughed. I guess they thought if they tried enough places, I'd give in. A few days ago, my dad showed up again. This time, he didn't knock, just stood outside calling over and over. I put in my earbuds and ignored it. Eventually, he left. Later, I got a text. "Hope you're proud of yourself." My cousin messaged me a day later and said the house is in real trouble. Not in foreclosure yet, but they're behind on everything. Nelson's been gone for weeks, couch surfing or whatever. My parents are still reaching out, still scrambling. But I'm done. I really thought at some point they'd figure it out, or at least try. Instead, they're just spiraling, hoping someone else fixes it. But not me. Not anymore. I'm not their backup plan. I won't pretend this is normal. They always said Nelson needed more help, but the truth is they just liked having someone who handled things. And now they're living with that choice. The next part. You'll see how desperate they get, but I'm not playing their game anymore. It's not a flashy ending, but it's real. I don't even know how to type it all out neatly. If you've made it this far, you already know things. With my parents have been chaos ever since I stopped doing everything for them. I always thought maybe they'd adjust, or Nelson would step up, or at the very least they'd learn how to log into a bank account. Nope. The first red flag that showed me just how bad things had gotten? My mom sent me a Venmo request, just a random amount, no message, then another, and another. The next day, my dad texted a photo of their fridge, empty, just said, "Hope you're happy." I blocked his number. I know it sounds cold, but I couldn't keep looking at their names. I started getting calls from all kinds of random numbers. They used the house phone. My aunt's, even Evelyn's. She messaged me right after. "Sorry, your mom begged to use my phone. I didn't know what to say." My parents always used to be so private about their issues, but now even people in the family chat could see the cracks. My uncle asked, "What's going on with your folks?" My parents kept calling and crying about bills. I told them, "Ask Nelson." The lights were getting shut off. Water late. My dad even DM'd me on LinkedIn, said they might lose the car. Nelson? Vanished. Of course. That's always been his move. They always gave him a pass. He's sensitive. He can't handle the stress. Like I wasn't right there, dealing with all of it. Then I started getting emails from companies I'd never heard of. Collections. Turns out my name was still tied to some old accounts they used because I had better credit. I cleaned it all up. Shut everything down. One last joint card they managed. To max out. I paid it off and closed it. Not for them, for me. I wasn't going to let them drag me down too. One day, my mom showed up again. This time she had a bag of groceries. Set them on my kitchen counter and started crying. She said, "You can't leave us like this. We're your parents." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You left me first." She tried to hug me. I stepped away. She slapped my shoulder and started yelling about how Nelson always needed more. How I was stronger. How I always fix things. "He's not like you," she said. I told her, maybe he should be. She stormed out and slammed the door behind her. After that, the calls kept coming. 5, 6, sometimes more a day. My dad's voicemails started shifting. Rage 1 minute, pathetic begging the next. "Just one conversation," he'd say. "You don't understand how bad it is." My mom? She just texted, "Please, just one conversation every morning. Like if she sent it enough, I'd break." Evelyn texted again. "Your mom calls me every morning. What do you want me to tell her?" I said, "Say whatever you want. I'm not changing my mind." She asked, "You really done with them?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, I get it." At some point, my parents even started reaching out to old friends of mine, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Kyle from college messaged me, "Hey, your dad called me. Everything okay?" I replied, "It's fine. Don't get involved." I guess people expect some grand reconciliation story, like I'll have a change of heart. But no, that's not what this is. I didn't do all this to teach them a lesson. I just wanted out. But watching them scramble, seeing them beg people who aren't me, it feels like closure in its own way. They spent years making sure Nelson had everything. When I needed something, they turned their backs, so now I've turned mine. The last real thing that happened, and I haven't told anyone this, is my dad emailed me an apology. 2 sentences. "We screwed up. We need you. Please talk to your mom." I didn't reply. I didn't even open the next email. Just archived it. It's been 4 months since all of this started. I got the surgery, paid for it myself, took out a loan. I'm fine. Working, managing. My parents still call every day. Sometimes I answer just to hear the silence before I hang up. Sometimes I let it ring. But they're on their own now. If you're looking for a happy ending, this isn't that. I didn't forgive them. I didn't fix anything. Nelson's still gone. My mom's still sending just one conversation every morning. My dad's still trying to act tough, but I can tell he's exhausted. I'm not their backup plan anymore. They can call Nelson. I'm out.